Hi, and welcome to the Use Your Powers for Good podcast. I'm your host, Carolyn Ofer Moselle, and I'm so glad that you're here. This is a podcast to inspire leaders, managers, and supervisors to use their powers for good to put more kindness into the world. As leaders, it's important to find ways to reduce stress, find balance, and create a positive workplace culture by improving the tools in our leadership toolbox. Today's guest is Chichi Nyagah-nash, and she is the director of the Department of General Services for Baltimore City Government. And I am going to read her impressive bio here. First, I should note that Chichi is the first woman director of the Baltimore City Department of General Services. And I think that is so special as we are opening up Women's History Month. So I will read her bio. As the director of the Department of General Services for Baltimore City Government, Chichi oversees an agency that is responsible for providing support services to the Baltimore City departments and mayoral offices in the areas of fleet management, facilities maintenance, and capital design and construction. As the backbone of all city operations, we ensure that agencies have the vehicles and equipment they need to provide services to the city's residents and visitors, and that they can operate out of clean, safe, and high quality work and service locations. Chichi began working for the City of Baltimore's Department of General Services in 2012, serving as the Deputy Chief for the Fleet Division. She has also had the opportunity to work in the Department of Housing and Community Development as the Director of Special Projects, where she got firsthand experience in working directly with residents and business owners of Baltimore City. Chichi has served as the Assistant Deputy Director in the Department of Human Resources, where she was responsible for the agency's administrative functions, fiscal management, and information systems prior to returning to DGS as the Deputy Director. With an undergraduate degree in International Business Administration from Alliant International University and an MBA with a concentration in Human Resources from Johns Hopkins University, Chichi worked in several organizations prior to joining the public sector. Her experience and expertise includes affirmative action and equal employment opportunities, corporate ethics and compliance, program management, and security and investigation consulting. Chichi proudly waves two flags, having immigrated to the United States from Kenya when she was 19 years old, completing her undergraduate studies. Outside of work, Chichi serves on the board of volunteering Untapped and sits on, or the board of volunteering Untapped, and sits on the advisory boards of Business Volunteers Maryland and the University of Baltimore Schaefer Center for Public Policy. Through these roles, she is able to contribute directly to the identified needs of Baltimore's communities, as well as encouraging others to participate in civic engagement activities. In 2018, Chichi was honored to be recognized by the Maryland Daily Record as one of Maryland's leading women. That's awesome. So Chichi, thank you for being here. And we are really glad that you're here, especially as we enter Women's History Month and you serving as the first woman director of DGS. We're really glad to be able to celebrate you this month. So let's talk a little bit about your leadership journey. What did you start out wanting to be?
Okay, absolutely. But before I start answering that question, I just want to say thank you so very much, Carolyn, for the opportunity to be here, to be recording this podcast, to be sharing what may end up, impacting or influencing or helping one of your listeners. And just to say to you personally, I miss your energy around City Hall. I always found that you were very pleasant to work with. You're smiling at me now, and that is the Carolyn that I know. Like, always very much enjoyed our interactions and just fed off your very positive energy. So again, thank you for having me on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for those kind words.
Absolutely. So you asked what I wanted to be starting out. I'm fine acknowledging now. I used to feel kind of weird fessing up to this, but as a kid, I never had that one thing I wanted to be. I think there was just too much in the world that was intriguing and exciting to me that never really landed on any one thing. So the the fact that I'm where I am now is really the I shouldn't say destination because I'm still traveling the road, but
Yes.
is just it's where I am after a long circuitous journey where I've just learned everything I could along
Mhm.
the way. But yeah, never really had aspirations to be any one thing.
I like
As
to
far
ask
as
that
my
question. I'm sorry.
what's
I
that?
like to ask that question because a lot of us start off one way and just
Mhm.
end up totally doing something different, or think that like I'll tell you, I thought that I was going to be a doctor when I was a child until my
Yeah.
nephew came in the house with a bloody nose and almost passed out. So I figured that was not my path. I learned that early on.
I'm glad you, exactly glad you didn't wait until residency to figure that one
Right,
out.
right. So I always like to ask that question. It's always interesting to know if what you did,
Mhm.
what you wanted to be, is where you are now.
Yeah, I think I am where I'm supposed to be, and wherever I end up is will be
Mhm.
good too. As far as the leadership journey itself, I think the first time that I actually embraced the role of leadership was as the deputy chief of fleet. So sure, before that I had managed folks before, I had managed teams, I had managed initiatives, but it really wasn't until that position as deputy chief of fleet where I felt like I actually had a work family that I needed to, shepherd, and that was looking to me for guidance. And I have to say, it scared me when when that bulb went off. I was like, oh my gosh, people actually relying on me for leadership in this role.
Yes.
But yeah, that is when I first understood really the difference between managing and leading,
Mhm,
and embraced that role.
mhm.
Um, yeah, and then as I've had the opportunity to bounce around, is this too loud?
Yeah,
The dogs
no,
in the
it's fine.
background. Okay, sorry,
So,
that is my work from home life.
yes, this is this is what we do now. We listen to dogs crying babies and the FedEx man coming to the door.
It's the mailman that is setting these ones off. So I'm sorry. So
That's okay.
yeah, and then as I've worked through the different organizations in the city at housing and at DHR, I've had more opportunities to build upon the leadership skills. Um, and so like I said, my journey continues, but every step along the way i'm 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 seeking out these opportunities for growth. And so even just those movements within the city, at first I was hesitant to take those opportunities, but then I had a really good conversation with Deputy Mayor Khalil Zaid, and
Mhm.
he said to me, and I'll never forget this, he said, take the opportunities. You're not being disloyal to any one organization. I mean, especially if you're staying within the city, take the
Right.
opportunities to advance and learn and round out your skill set. So I'm forever grateful to him for that guidance. And then outside of work, I like I say, I try seeking out these opportunities for more
Mhm,
leadership. So I have taken the Maryland Certified Public Managers course through the University of Baltimore.
mhm.
And I'm currently in the longest class of the leadership. GBC's the leadership.
Oh, because
So
of the pandemic, it
because of the
started and stopped.
pandemic, we are now the class of 2021. So proud distinction to be the longest class ever. So we haven't graduated yet. Um, but yeah, I find that, just surrounding myself with other
Mhm.
people who are also intentionally trying to learn themselves and how they can be better leaders helps me feed off of them and yeah, just grow faster, better.
I like that because one thing that I learned on my leadership journey is that you can never learn enough, because depending on what stage you are in your leadership journey, you will receive the information differently. because sometimes I did go through a period of time where I was like, oh, I already know that, or I've done that before. But then I came to learn that, well, yeah, I may have had that experience, but at the time that I had it, I was not in the leadership journey position that I'm in at the present moment. So, there are other things I can learn from the information. So I like that you are you've remained open to learning and growing in that respect. So that's the city is great, good to lucky to have you, because we need more leaders in public service that are willing to do that and continue to evolve. So that is awesome. So let's talk a little bit about what would you say is your most important lesson that you have learned along the way in your leadership journey?
Sure. Two, the second one will feed directly off the first, and the first is really just a statement that leadership is an activity and not a position. So you can have the biggest, grandest title in an organization, but if you're not actively embodying the leading of the people who you are supposed to be leading, then it's all for naught. It's just in title. It may be on paper, your paycheck may reflect it, but
Right.
if you're not acting it, then that to me is really not leadership. That's just positional authority. And then so tying back to the word activity, leadership, to me, one of the most important lessons I've learned in that acting part is that I'm not the I'm not the person in the organization who has the answers all the time. I will. So even in acting in a leadership role, I have to check myself and know that there are people who I must rely on, because this is what they do. This is their subject matter expertise. So like as I'm talking, I'm thinking about, for example, Bambi Stevens who's the chief of our capital projects. There is no way I will ever know as much as she knows about capital construction and the law around that, and so I must rely on her. Same thing with our energy group, fiscal, facilities. The right people are in the right place, and they are leading their organizations. My job is to set the vision for us all to be moving in the right direction and actively doing that. So actively reminding people what that vision is, and then opening up doors, trying to remove obstacles. I sometimes think that really my main job is just to be a cheerleader for the team and the like the battering ram. So if there are obstacles in our way, it's my job to try to remove those. It is also my job to be the one who's cheering the loudest when we have wins, because it's really important to celebrate people when they have those wins. So those are the important lessons to me. So again, it's not about the position, it's about the activity and what are those activities. It's being behind, trying to prod people along, and also be at the same time being in front, kind of like the cow pushers on the front of a train, just trying to remove any obstacles that our little train as it chugs along might encounter. And then knowing that the folks who are leading the divisions and the offices are the owners of that content, also trying to make sure, find ways to foster their growth and provide opportunities for them.
It's interesting you say that, because it reminded me of when that perspective really was very, very clear. When I was chief of staff for the city council president, I learned very quickly that it was not. It was more about how I got, drew on and relied on the expertise from the receptionist to the deputy chief of staff, just to make sure that I was able to implement the vision of the council president. So it wasn't me just telling people what to do based on that vision. It was me helping them to make their contribution to to bring their expertise to the table so that the vision can be realized. So that is definitely you will definitely know when you've transitioned from strictly being a manager to a leader, because you're like, oh, I think they're looking for me to provide some guidance. You
Exactly.
know, you look over your
Absolutely.
shoulder, oh, they're talking to me, right?
Yeah. Right.
Right. You know, that reminded me again of, especially when in the city council president's office, we had a time where was a sit-in and all this other stuff. And so, staff was looking to me to say, well, what now? So I had to help them understand what now and how, their part that they needed to play, or that
Right.
they could play, to help
Mm.
us get through that situation. So I totally understand, when it's very clear when you transition from strictly being a manager to being a leader that manages in a certain way.